The 411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that affect us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. Boy, you're a girl, 411 Live.
Domestic violence affects millions, and it does not discriminate. It affects women, men, every socioeconomic status, every race, every culture. And as a matter of fact, there are so many people affected by domestic violence that you probably know someone who is a victim or has been a victim of domestic violence. Well, it is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Hello, everyone. I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live, Real People, Real Talk. With this special month, it is only fitting that we talk about domestic violence. And joining me to do that is Nancy Stone. Nancy is a therapist with Jewish Family Services, specializing in services for domestic violence survivors. And Nancy, I want to just say thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm very glad to be here. Very glad to talk about this topic. It happens every single month, but October is the time in which we really expand upon what we know and how it affects families and individuals. And so thank you for inviting me to be able to have this conversation.
Absolutely. And I guess it is really good to have that concentrated effort on the awareness. But like you said, it's, 12 months out of a year. It is a problem. I read just last night, and it said that nearly 3 out of 4 Americans personally know someone who has been a victim of domestic violence. When you talk 3 out of 4 people, that means there are a lot of victims out there.
There are a lot of victims. And so in some ways we could say, oh, well, it's just happening everywhere, so it mustn't be very impactful for people. But the reality is it's incredibly impactful on the individual level.
Right. And I think about, when you're out with your group of friends or, well, right now we're not doing the group thing, but when we did,
Yes.
the group of friends, and you think about, within that group, there are probably people within there who are victims of domestic violence, but you just don't know. So I say hidden in plain sight.
Hidden in plain sight, absolutely. You can't be in a gathering of about more than a dozen individuals without really acknowledging there are at least 2, maybe 3 individuals who have experienced it, are going through it right now, or may experience it in the future. Mm-hmm. It also doesn't discriminate by age.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Every single area of people's lives, their ethnicity, their economic status, their religion, their age can either become a victim or has been a victim of domestic violence.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are the stats at this point? Is it 1 in 3, 1 in 4 women?
Yeah, it's between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 women over the course of their life will be a survivor of domestic violence. For men, it's about 1 in 6. So that's their experience also.
And a lot of times we kind of skirt over that or don't realize that men are affected.
Absolutely. And families are affected.
Yes.
And economically, individuals are affected if they lose work, if they have to change where they live, if they have to change schools. All of the sort of the ripple effect of domestic violence affects every part of a person's life also.
Speaking of that, when we went into this pandemic back in the spring, it's having a ripple effect on domestic violence, right?
Yes, it is. Our services from Jewish Family Services didn't stop. At Sojourner Family Peace Center, they didn't stop, but the numbers kept expanding. The shelter had more people that were needing housing. The
Mm.
hotline there got even more busy. Sensitive crimes with Milwaukee Police Department got even more busy. So yes, it is. It did not take a break, and for at least for a number of the clients that I've been working with through this time, they're more isolated. They can't get out of their home as easily as they had been able to before, and there's less support with regard to like family members or friends because everyone is also managing the pandemic in any way they can. And so there's not quite as much support as maybe they had before that.
Right. And I guess with the stress of the pandemic, whether it's
Mhm.
losing a job or hours being cut or
Right.
being at having to self isolate or
Yeah.
quarantine or that kind of thing, and you're with the person all the time, you can see where escalation is, probable.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
And kids were being impacted too because now, they I think when did they stop being in school? Maybe end of
In
March or
March, yeah.
April,
Hmm.
right? So now increased stress and also kids being home and needing either online learning that
Yes.
one parent is having to do or childcare wasn't available anymore. So a significant increase in stress for families. Absolutely.
Right. Even before the pandemic, though, I always heard people say, and just for background, I am a former TV journalist, so I've done a lot of stories on domestic violence. But one of the questions would always come up: why doesn't she leave? Why doesn't the victim leave?
Right.
But that is, it's very complicated.
It is very complicated. Um, and we could talk about that for a long
Hmm.
while because there are a lot of moving parts to that. I guess one of the things that I really want people to understand is that when an individual is experiencing domestic violence, it didn't just all of a sudden happen overnight. And suddenly everything went from rainbows and unicorns, love and sweetness and light to, oh my goodness, this person is absolutely affecting me, terrorizing me, demeaning me, intimidating me, harming me. It doesn't tend to happen that way. It starts in little snippets, but then you have times when it seems like, okay, he just must have had a bad day.
Hmm.
I better not bother him on Fridays because his stress level is high, or she's been stressed out with home. And so I just need to manage myself better. And the reality is that in domestic violence, we can't quite predict how things are going to unravel in a situation. And we also, when we're in that situation, we're just trying to manage it. We're just trying to bring calm to that moment. Let's see if we can get things to de escalate. Let's see if we can calm the situation down. We're not watching our lives like we watch a television show.
Right.
We're in our lives. We're in that hurricane. We're not the radar that's telling us, oh boy, there's a bad storm down there. We're in it. And, we've all been in really bad storms and we just want to seek cover. We want to be dry. We want to be safe. We hope the power doesn't go out. We are just managing the moment. And that's what domestic violence is like when you're in it. And
Yeah.
also, what we do know is that when a person begins to think about, can I stay? Should I leave? We also know from statistics that our level of danger goes up,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Right. Right. But
So,
and I'm going to stop you there because I want you to come back to this because Yesterday when we were talking, I thought you said something really great. You said, uh, when we say why doesn't she leave? And I said it was complicated, and you said because an abuser is not abusive 100% of the time.
Right.
You know, and I
Right.
thought
Right.
that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Right. And when we first met the person who's winding up abusing us, they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't come up and meet us and with a shirt on them that the logo said, "I will make your life horrible and miserable and create chaos. How about a date?"
Yeah.
That's not how it starts. And human beings have both a logical, rational mind, and we have an emotional mind. And our emotional mind oftentimes enjoys the attention, the care, the way in which the beginning of a relationship begins. Kindness, attention, maybe there's gifts that are being given, maybe there's just a lot of positive attention. Our emotional brain really likes that.
Yeah.
It gets confused when now something dangerous happens or something really potentially intimidating or manipulative happens. We're not sure what to do with that.
Yeah.
Right. And our
Right.
logical, rational brain isn't sitting outside of us saying, now, Nancy, this person is going to be really dangerous to you in the future. So you need to just step away and walk away. Wouldn't that be lovely
It would be
if,
lovely.
the two parts of our brain worked really well together? Not when it comes to abusive relationships.
Right.
Things get very muddied. And when chaos begins to happen, we are in it and we just want that moment to become safer.
You said something else that
Right.
was really good yesterday too. You said, and I wrote it down. Let's see, do I have it? You said with a rational relationship, the problems have solutions. But in an
Right.
abusive relationship, um, solutions are problems or become problems.
Become problems. And what I mean by that, we all have hopefully some functional relationships in our life. A good friend, a colleague, our neighbor, or hopefully some family
Yeah.
members, right? And if a problem comes up, you come up with a solution. And it's fine because both people want the solution and both people care about the other. And so they want things to go well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in abusive relationships, solutions have problems. If I'm with an abusive partner and he says to me, Nancy, if you would just not talk when I first come home and only spend exactly what I've told you you can spend on food and anything else you need. And you would not bother me with questions. Everything would be great. We'd be great. So I'm going to try and do that, right? I'm going to try and not bother him with questions. I'm going to try and stay below the budget limit. I'm going to try and do all those things. It won't make things better. Now I've got new problems he's bring up. Well, why are you being so good? What are you trying to hide? Why are you getting along so much better with me now? Let me see your phone, who you've been talking to. Let me, what are you doing with that money? Right? Now I got a new set of problems I'm going to try and figure out.
Good is never good enough.
Good is never good enough. But we thought it was when we entered into that relationship. We really thought it was going to be good because it was the honeymoon. And we all have honeymoon periods of time in relationships, but in functional relationships, problems come up. You come up with some solutions because you both care about it. You both want
Right.
solutions to the problems and you care about each other. You want each other to be happy. You want to build a functional life together.
I guess
Yeah,
that could be a
not so much.
telltale sign for, people in a
Yeah.
relationship, early on when that dynamic seems to manifest itself. And it's like, okay, that is a red flag.
Yes, that's a red flag. And some of my clients will have very functional relationships with family, with employers, that all those other parts of their life they do really well.
Mhm.
So they can't quite figure out why doesn't it work in the relationship. So maybe they got to try harder. Maybe their love isn't good enough. Maybe their partner is more wounded than they realize. So they just double down in the effort instead of doubling down in looking at this isn't a healthy thing that's happening here.
Yeah, yeah. Nancy, we're going to come back to that. And in our second half, we're also going to talk about, for somebody on the outside looking in,
Yeah.
what we should and should not do. So anyone
Okay.
who is, listening to us, you're on social media, whatever, you have some comments, drop them in. We want to see it. But stay with us. We're going to be right back.
I hear someone go, "Didn't it come from you guys?"
Strangers cough at me.
Move away from me.
Someone spit towards my direction. All the stereotypes that we've worked so hard to break are just going to be reversed. And I won't let that happen.
We all have to play our part.
I donate my plasma.
I've been making masks.
We deserve respect as much as everybody else.
I'm a firefighter, not a virus.
I'm a mask maker, not a virus.
I'm a nurse.
I'm a delivery woman, chef, a neighbor, artist.
Bus driver.
I'm a doctor.
Fight the virus. Fight the virus.
This is where you rise, this is where you shine, this is where you become the greatest of all time. History in the making. This is history in the making. History in the making.
Vote for your life.
Welcome back. I'm with Nancy Stone. She is a therapist with Jewish Family Services, and we're talking about domestic violence. Nancy, when we think of domestic violence, we think of punching and bruising and black eyes, but there's much more to it, right?
Right. That is one form, physical abuse. And I would say, in all honesty, probably only maybe 2 out of 10 of my clients that I, see identify significant physical abuse. What most of my clients struggle with, and the struggle is pretty intense, is emotional abuse, name calling, demeaning, intimidation, manipulation. So emotional kinds of abuse, along with verbal abuse. Financial abuse can be a significant component. Either the abuser doesn't allow the victim to have access to money, and then I have clients in which they are the breadwinner and they don't have access to their money. Also, sexual abuse happens, spiritual abuse can happen. I've had clients that really have not been able to follow their faith tradition because the abuser doesn't accept that or tolerate that. So yes, there can be lots of different kinds of abuse, and also different kinds of abusers.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you're a therapist with Jewish Family Services, and
Right.
you're helping victims or survivors of domestic violence kind of recover.
Yes.
And you were mentioning to when we were talking, you were saying that, they walk in and they're thinking, I guess I'm crazy, but you're telling them you're not, what you went through, that was crazy. What you're going
Right.
through now, what your experience is trauma from what you went
Yes.
through, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the really important components of this kind of work is to really understand trauma. Because trauma, which is a completely overwhelming experience that is unexpected and overwhelms your system, okay? Some of the symptoms of trauma look a lot like mental health problems. Hard time sleeping, hard time eating, feeling overwhelmed, feeling numb, having a hard time concentrating, wanting to isolate, wanting to sleep, maybe having physical symptoms. Those are all traumatic symptoms from an event or events, ongoing events that overwhelm your system. And one of the things that we're able to do, because we understand trauma, is to be able to help people understand you're not crazy, you've been through crazy, or you're in the middle of it. And so if we can help our clients normalize, in a way, normalize the symptoms that they're having and help them to manage some of those symptoms, then they can begin to feel a little bit more of a foundation underneath them and can begin to, instead of being, again, in that category 5 hurricane, be able to have moments of getting a little radar image of what they're in. Okay, I see. Now I see the crazy making in a way that's different than feeling like I'm crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that we really try and help people help normalize, right?
Right. Right.
And if any of us were in a traumatic situation, we would have a whole bunch of those symptoms.
Right.
But when it's ongoing or it's in the home we're living in, it becomes more overwhelming.
Yeah, I remember you saying there in that abusive relationship, there's a chipping away of a person.
Yeah, absolutely. The things that you need to be able to really understand your situation and to have the skills and the courage. I mean, it takes tremendous courage to face what you're in, to acknowledge that it's not of your making, it's not your fault, and then to figure out what to do to get out. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
And abusers, one of the emotional abuse chips away at who we know ourselves to be, right? Yeah. When I met, my partner and he acknowledged, boy, I really like how smart you are, and I really like how caring you are, and I really like the way in which you can balance a whole bunch of things. But then gradually he begins to demean me. He begins to say that I think I'm too smart or I'm full of myself. And then he begins to think that I'm not good at managing everything. Those words and those intentions chip away at who I thought I was. Maybe I'm not as put together as I thought I was. Maybe he's right. Maybe I deserve what's happening to me. Yeah. And no one deserves that kind of abuse and disrespect and lack of care.
When I was a TV journalist, there are stories that have stuck with me. And you, in the line of work you do, I'm sure that there are clients or cases that have really stuck with you. Is there one that just really sticks out?
There's one that sticks out in kind of an unusual way. And in part, what in me sharing this story, it will help you to, and my people listening to understand that a couple of things. One, therapy isn't that something's wrong with you. Therapy is, I really want my present life and my future life to be better and to be more what I want it to be, right? Mm-hmm. Therapy isn't, oh my God, there's something wrong with me and I'm broken and I need to be fixed. No. And I had a client who she and I had been working together for about a year and a half. And she would sort of allude to some really significant abuse that she went through, physical abuse. And but she'd never really said a whole lot about it. She just sort of hinted at it. And then one day she came in and she said, you know, Nancy, you've been watching me for about a year and a half, but I've been watching you. And I think I'm ready to tell you the worst thing that happened to me. And that was a moment of me honoring her, that she was now ready. She was ready to share that and release some of the shame and release some of the difficult feelings along with that. And so she shared it with me. And that was really big. That was overwhelming. And the following week, she came in and she looked at the chair she normally sat in and where she'd sat that day. And she looked at it and she said, I'm not that person anymore. I'm not going to sit there. I'm going to sit in your other chair. I'm going to sit in your other chair. And that sent shivers through my spine, because in her trusting herself and trusting me, we didn't have a time frame. It didn't have to happen in 3 sessions. It could be over time of trust building and her finding more and more of herself to be able to then share that. And it transformed her. And that one really stays with me. Wow. It really does.
Yeah, that trust, that's important.
The trust.
What do you say to people on the outside looking in, knowing someone, wanting to help, or maybe not? What should people say? What should people avoid saying or doing?
Yeah. So I talk a lot with my clients around support. What does good support look like? Good support is a person, a friend, a parent, a colleague who will listen to you and won't judge you, won't tell you what you should do because they haven't been living in your shoes, but will continue to reach out and just giving care and gentle loving that says, I'm here for you. I'm here for you and I want you to be okay. And support isn't someone saying, if you don't leave your abuser, I can't be your friend, or don't keep bringing up these problems because I don't want to hear it if you're not going to do something. That's not support. That's another person telling you how you should be, telling you that how you're managing your life isn't okay. So that's not support. Helping people with regards to things like if they want to seek services, they want to come to Sojourner, they want to come to Jewish Family Services, saying, drop your kids off with me. I'll babysit. You go talk to somebody. I'll do that for you. Not, well, I guess you're on your own now. You made your bed, you lie in it. That's not support, right? Yep. And then also to, judgments around, I wouldn't have let this happen to me, or I don't understand why you pick people like that. Those words aren't helpful. They just make me, if I'm the survivor, feel even worse about myself and feel unable to reach out to others and ask for some support.
I can hear somebody saying all those things in their head, thinking, this is tough love,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clients are already going through tough love, tough, dangerous love. What they need is compassion. And also, and as we've talked about, you are most at risk if you're thinking about leaving or when you do leave. And survivors are super smart about what they're in the middle of. They know when their partner is escalating. They know how to manage those things. They are going to have the best ideas and solutions on how to leave if you really just honor that. You honor the knowledge that they've had to have in order to survive what they're in.
Kind of walk alongside them, but let them lead the
Yeah.
way. Let them be in control of it.
Absolutely. I really like that. Walk alongside them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they feel less alone and they don't carry as much shame, which in some ways we ask ourselves, why should they be the carriers of the shame? They're not hurting. They're not the hurter. They're being hurt. But shame is funny that way. The victim feels it, not the abuser.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nancy, we have talked and talked. Yes. And there's a lot to talk about. Thank you so much. This being National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and thank you for coming and spreading the awareness. You were great.
Yeah.
You're absolutely great.
It is my honor to be here this morning, and also it's always my honor to work with these survivors. They are very courageous.
Excellent. Thank you for what you do. We've been talking to Nancy Stone. She is a therapist with Jewish Family Services. Thank you again. And we want to thank you for listening to us on the 411 Live, Real People, Real Talk. You can listen to past episodes. Just go to your favorite podcast platform and search for the 411 Live. And of course, you can find us on YouTube as well. And if you do go there, please subscribe. Thank you again. And for now, I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live, Real People, Real Talk.